In a couple of rooms in my house, I've got some ceiling fans and they desperately need a makeover. But the problem is if I go to the store, I'm going to see a lot of selections and the prices are actually pretty high. So I think what we can do is make them over. Start with taking the fan blades off. It's real easy with the screws. Usually there's only 2 screws holding up each fan blade. By using a Phillips screwdriver, you can pull them down. I'm going to take this first fan in my office and take them all off and get them down. Next, I need to clean them. Sometimes these ceiling fan blades can get pretty dirty. Now's the chance to get them cleaned. Now it's time to take off the bracket that holds them in place. Normally it's just 3 screws. All we got to do is take those 3 screws off. Make sure you save those screws because you're going to need to reinsert those. Once they're off, just pull the bracket off. Now I'm going to do this to all of the fan blades. I'm going to do this to 2 of the rooms. First is going to be an office, and I'm going to set these out. The other room I'm going to do it in is going to be my son's room. So what I'm going to do is paint all of these a white color on one side. Now, you'll rarely hear me say this on Hometalk, but go ahead and buy the cheap white spray paint, and I'll tell you why later. Go ahead and put a good coat on there. On my son's room, I'm going to do 2 to 3 coats, but on the office, just 1 coat. Here's an example of a couple of coats, and then I'll show you on the other one. This is just 1 coat, but it's okay because we're going to use multiple colors. I'm going to go with the faux wood look. So what I'm going to do is start with some gray now. After the white's on, put some gray, and then back to the white. That's going to get rid of that shine on there. Now I'm going to put some brown on. Now this looks a little bit dark and a little bit spotty, but don't worry, put it on, and then we're going to hit it with a little bit more of some gray, and then just to touch it up. Once we get that gray on, it's okay to hit it more with some white. I'm going to pull the can back a little bit, and look at that. It takes away that really dark spot. Now, line up the ones for my son's room. I'm going to take some bright colors. The first one's going to be yellow. I'm going to dip the brush in water so it doesn't want to stick to the brush. Dab it on there and go to town. This is the fun part. This is where he can actually get involved if he wants. All you have to do is do some splattering. Now, you can also make any type of design you want. In between colors, just make sure you dip it in the water, clean it off, and go to the next color. As you can see, when it comes time to splattering, I go with a different angle on each color. I did yellow, green, I'm on red now, and I want to finish up with some blue. And we're going to fill this all in. And it doesn't have to have a rhyme or reason, just make it look good. We're going to let all these dry, especially this. And look at those splatter paints. This is going to look great in his room. Once all the painting is done, it's time to put the bracket back on. That's easy to do, just like you took it off, but make sure the painted side is down. Put those up, and look at this. In my office now, I've got that faux wood look. So much better than spending a couple $100 on a new fan. And in my son's room, well, I think he was the most surprised. It turned out really great. Just so fun, and when it spins up, it looks even better. Kind of brightens up the room, don't you think? I hope this inspired you to do your own ceiling fan blade makeover.
So I found these fan blades at the thrift store, you guys, and I thought that they would be really cute as coat hangers. And you're probably thinking, coat hangers, Royce? Really? Really? So to prepare this fan blade, we're going to do a couple things. We're going to remove this portion because we're actually going to flip it around and attach it differently in order to make a hook. And then you just take that right off. Now, I'm not going to fill my holes because I'm actually going to use this bottom hole to hang something, and I'll use these 2 to reattach my fan blade the other way. So I'm going to set these aside, and we'll come back to these later. So in order to get started, you guys, I did take time to wash these really, really well and remove any dirt or debris from the blade. I'm also taking a sanding block. This is a 320 grit sanding block, and I'm going to sand it one way, and then I'm going to sand it the opposite way. My goal with sanding is not to remove this finish, but it is to remove any shiny portions or slick portions of the surface. And now that I've sanded, I'm going to take just a paper towel or a moist towelette, and I'm going to wipe all the dust off from that sanding. And if I look at my blade and I see any areas that are still shiny, I'm going to go in and just really make sure that I knock that shine back. I'm going to do the same thing with this piece. And what sanding does is just gives the surface some tooth so that the paint can cling on to the surface readily. And now that both my pieces are sanded and I've knocked back most of the shine, now all I have to do is prime them. Now that I have both pieces primed, I'm going to begin by painting this piece. And for this, I'll be using Wise Owl's Heavy Metal Metallic paint in the color bronze. So now that we have that all painted, we can turn our attention to the fan blade. And I'm going to be using one of the new recycled decoupage papers. This one is called the Grungy Distressed Floral. I love this paper because it has typography, there's some script on there, and you have some grunge on here and these really pretty flowers. And the great thing about this paper in this project is I'll be able to use this one sheet of paper on all 3 blades. I'm just going to use my finger to score that blade so I know exactly where I need to trim. And I still have plenty of paper to cover my other blades. Today I'll be using Wise Owl's 1 Hour Enamel in a matte finish to decoupage. I love the 1 Hour Enamel because it is almost completely cured in only 4 hours. So I'm going to start by applying my 1 Hour Enamel over my surface, and I'm making sure that I completely cover the surface of my blade before I lay my paper down. Always looking from the side to make sure there aren't any areas that are dry or that don't have enough product. Now you guys are used to me using plastic wrap, but today I'll be using a felt covered spatula in order to smooth out my decoupage. You guys can find these on Amazon. They're super affordable. I think they're like $2 a piece. And we're gonna go ahead and decoupage the rest of our blade. Now that my fan blade is all dry, you guys, I can trim it. And I'm simply going to take a 220 grit sanding block and just run it down and around. I only go one direction because I don't want to tear my paper or lift it up. And so I'm going down and really focusing on this edge. And I know that that's going to be a way that I get a really nice, clean trim. I have some paint on my edges, and so I'm just going to use my sanding block and just sand that off. So now that I've decoupaged this piece, I'm going to go over it with my same Wise Owl 1 Hour Enamel, and this is going to seal and protect my paper so that it doesn't get scratched or ruined when it's being used. Now that I have my fan blade all painted and decoupaged, doesn't look like completely different. Now it's time for us to attach our hardware from the fan. So what we'll be doing is using the exact same holes that are already in the fan, only now we'll be attaching the hardware like this, and so it'll be used as a hook for jackets, sweaters, wraps, and we are going to simply attach it. Now I'm probably going to go in after I attach these, you guys, and paint them to match the hardware on the fan. I'm not really worried about my hole being super clean because it's going to be covered up anyways. So it goes through the front, and then on the back side is where we'll actually do most of the work for this one. I'm going to put my washer first, and then for my bolt, or my nut I should say, I'm just going to kind of twist it on there just to kind of get it started. And I got washers because I want to make sure that my my hook is going to be as stable as possible, and the washer is going to help with that. So I'm going to continue to tighten these, and then our hook will be installed. And so that's it. Let me show you guys a photo of what it looks like once it's installed. I think it's going to be fabulous.